So 17 is a grid-in question, and it's a geometry application. So it's definitely a little bit tricky. You wouldn't have to have all of the stuff that I've listed on my screen here. I just kind of wanted the video to make sense as we took a few minutes to talk about the problem. But if we check out what we're presented with, it's talking about a camp counselor wants to find a length x in feet across a lake represented in the sketch above. So x is this distance from A to E. They give us a bunch of lengths, so there were a bunch of lengths that were able to be measured. So from A to B, we're told that's 1800. I basically labeled everything that they told us. So 1800, 400, 700, and 800, and they tell us all that in the middle part of the problem statement. They tell us that AC and DE intersect at point B, and that angle AEB and CDB have the same measure. And that's already kind of denoted, right? AEB and then CDB, that's already denoted with the little marking there. What is the value of x? So what you need to realize here is that these triangles are actually similar to each other. You know that these angles are the same. They tell us that. If you remember what vertical angles are, whenever you have intersecting lines, the angles on opposite portions of those intersecting lines, so angle ABE and angle DBC, those are going to be congruent since they're vertical angles. If I know that these two angles are the same and the two angles that we just indicated are the same, all of the angles in the triangles have to add up to 180, so they're similar triangles by angle-angle or angle-angle-angle. And because the triangles are similar, we can use proportions to try to figure out what that missing value of x is. So x is going to correspond to the side that measures 800 on the smaller triangle. You have to be careful with how you set up your proportion. So in the proportion that I've set up, I have x as the numerator of my left-hand side, and I have 800 as the numerator of my right-hand side. So corresponding sides of similar triangles are proportional to each other. So these sides correspond to each other. Now if you look at what I have in my denominator, I have 1400 beneath the x, and I'm keeping the measures of the sides of the big triangle on the left side of my proportion, and then the measures of the corresponding sides on the little triangle are on the other side of the proportion. So I did have to realize that the 1400 and the 700 corresponded to each other, because I get from this angle, angle E, that's congruent to angle D, I go from there to the vertical angle across that 1400 foot side, and I go from the congruent angle to angle E or the corresponding angle to angle E on the smaller triangle to the vertical angle across the 700 foot side. So the 1400 and the 700 correspond to each other. And if I want to solve this, I basically just multiply by 1400. So when I multiply by 1400, I can divide both top and bottom of this fraction by 100, reduce it to 8 over 7. And then if I have a denominator of 7 and a numerator of 1400, I can divide the 7 by 7 and get a 1, divide the 1400 by 7 and get a 200, and then 8 times 200 is 1600, and that would be the answer that you'd have to grid in.